right, I want to say welcome to this session. I want to thank you for joining it. I want us to look at empowering education with custom GPT and what a world it has been for the last 3 years. Everyone seems to be going as it relates to artificial intelligence. And where does it put us? It puts us at a stage now that we want to really evaluate many things. And what better way to start off by thinking out of the box? I know many of you have already created GPTs, but the more I engage in creation of GPTs, I realize is the more I want to engage even further. So we want to really outline today the capabilities of GPTs. We want to allow you to understand, if you have not done one, how you can arrive at designing one. And as we go forward, we want to really think about the ethical implications when you're designing your own custom GPT. I have a slide that will address the requirements, and we'll address that later. But we are on a mission. I saw a statement the other day in an article that stated that prompt engineering has somewhat declined. And I think when ChatGPT opened, everyone was talking about prompt engineering. It seems as if we have garnered a set of skills that is now being deployed by everyone. I'm not talking coding and that sort of stuff because I'm not a coder. But having come from a background where I have been teaching for a long time and I understand the need for language and the whole language position itself, I realize that prompting is important when you're asking. So I'm not going to go through a definition of prompting, but it's just asking you to provide information that can be used by the AI system. Because if we do not have clear directions or goals, then how do we arrive at the point that we want to? Which got me thinking about Jamaica and my favorite dish, jerk chicken. Now, if I were to start off by saying, you know what, I wanted the best vegetable soup for those who are vegetarian here, to let us keep it inclusive, to someone who is a meat eater like myself, I'd have to get the best ingredients. And I have to understand the context, the background, and the goals of what I want to achieve. These are essential things. And in looking that, I have to have specific instructions down to the temperature. And I have to ensure that I have all the details in relation to what I want to have. And good prompting is going to get you so far. So sometimes when I'm in a rush, I have the tendency to just put a prompt in and then I have to go through and start to fine tune that prompt because I did not set the foundation for that prompt. It means I have to have context, the goal, the specific instruction, the relevant details, and if possible, give an example. And of course, what format do I want that in? I have to understand that the style and how do I want to garnish that prompt so it gets the best output and put barriers around it. Because I want to say that we have always heard that, with artificial intelligence, you get what you put in. But at this stage, I want to tell you also, you get what you put in and even more. So I'm not going through prompting. You can have those slides that you can look at and design how you want to prompt for those who have not been introduced to prompting yet. It's simple. What do you want and what is the outcome you want to get? Even if you're writing a letter or doing something, do you want information in a table or a chart or an infographic, which is now possible with artificial intelligence? Now, it brings me to the point. I'm seeing that slide cut off. I hope you're seeing it. But it talks about the requirement of building a GPT, a custom GPT. And why do I say a custom GPT? Because this is a service that is offered by OpenAI, which allows you to produce an item that you can actually have to serve a certain task or process. It's a wonderful tool. It's so wonderful that I've created over 105 in my last check. I've created GPTs regarding traveling to France. I've created GPTs regarding Jamaica. I've created GPTs regarding corruption. So many things that it pulls on information that I want, but you still need one thing. You need to have access to an OpenAI account. And that account gives you the privilege or the access to build your own custom GPTs that you can also share with other users. The cost, of course, I pay $20 a month. I've leveraged that, I've enjoyed it. And sometimes when I want to do a process in quick time, I go to my library that I have my chat GPTs located and I do that fast track. So understanding that some things are free, but to get this GPT, you'll need to pay a little. So it gives me to the point where, how do I see people using GPTs? The other day, I was at a conference and a session with some individuals, and they are saying that in, for example, the School of Business, they're using it to allow students to do research and to bring across case studies within the course. They build their own custom GPTs to solve problems in the world. In our classroom system, sometimes we can have a GPT that is built to respond to students' questions or query on content. You can build an assistant based on a GPT, and of course, you're pulling from an API that can be, of course, an advisor to students. Faculty are using it for research too, because they can find that they can design a GPT and use it to produce research. And sometimes when you're using GPTs and you have a business model that allows you to have a sign-on, the data is not used to train further the models further. So that's a good thing when you have a Teams account. And there's so many things. For bots can be used for administrative workflows and so forth, and of course, tutoring. I want to say that you can have a GPT to plan, outline your course, do your assessments, and so forth. So there's value in having the GPT. And why do I say this? Because the moment you realize that information is such free flowing and that you can train the output of these GPTs to a limit, then you have the power in your hands. And with that power comes responsibility, as we'll address further down in this presentation. Now, what is a custom GPT? I am not a coder. I have never coded, but I've always wanted to produce something that coders could do. For example, coding engineers. I have a daughter who is a computer science engineer, and she will always say, "Do you know what you're asking? Do you know the coding behind it?" Well, I'm not a coder, but now I have the ability to code like an expert by using language. And of course, an AI system built on GPT is tailored for your instruction using the language. That is the facilitation of this GPT. It is also flexible and no complexity. And the bottom line is you can customize it to be friendly, to be understanding based on language. So when I look further, I want to go further because I think it's important for me to outline a few examples. Because I've created so many, and Sarah's going to take you along the line of developing one, which I think is important. But I want to share with you one of my first one that I, not the first, but one of the many. And this had to do with a friend of mine. He was having problems in England. And I asked him what was the problem he was having. Here it is. I was able to ask him a few questions regarding, and he worked at a freight company. And he said, listen, the freight is arriving late. I need to communicate. And therefore, I built a GPT for him. Collected the information, collected data that he wanted, and now he's able to upload a spreadsheet if he wants to get the information from that spreadsheet to do his consolidation of shifts and so forth. The next one that I thought I really liked, it was an accreditation advisor or alignment. Individuals could look at the various accreditation bodies, and then they could align what they're doing with that. They could upload also information, and then it will run a check. Because what I've done behind is to write an extensive prompt with guidelines, with framework, and it pulls on documents that will allow it to give information. Now, I had like to pause because I want to see that information is not 100% correct, so you have to verify at all times. So how can we meet that standard? You click on it, it will take you to that page and give you some outlines. It will allow you to upload a file, so at least you have an idea on the documents you need to align for that accreditation. And it gives you an option also to put information in. While I am presently in an instructional designer role, I normally vision artificial intelligence from a wider perspective based on my love for technology and, of course, merging it with pedagogy because I'm a teacher at heart also. The other one that I designed was based on a presentation, a keynote I gave in January at a conference, and this was targeting psychologists, and I wanted them to build a competency scenario framework. And this, of course, matches with their competency guidelines. And of course, they could create scenarios, they could give case studies, and so forth. So this is the power of it as it relates to designing supportive documentation for students and faculty, as well as coming from an instructional perspective, which gives us the best of both worlds when you're able to merge all two. And we're in a process time that I see at this point in time where we are considering assignments. You know, we have done the same thing for the last 500 years where we have assessed individuals based on text and their ability to recall. And as I merge along the line of artificial intelligence, a thought came that I heard at a conference. What about process thinking? How do we facilitate process thinking? And that got me thinking, why not make, of course, a GPT, custom GPT, to address the issue of process thinking design? And I want to take you a little bit because I think the next slide would give you an overview of how it works. It will go through a system where it'll ask a few questions or give you an idea of what process thinking assignment should be, and then it's going to ask you to put your information in. So after going through developing that prompt, and it's extensive because then you have to do the research, you have to know what process thinking is because you want the custom GPT to be aligned with the tenets, of course, process thinking. So therefore, when Sarah shows you later on developing that one using an example, you'll see why it's necessary to take the time to go through, have your documentation, have your research, your framework to ensure that what you get out of the GPT is worthy of course digesting. Here is the next slide, and I'll highlight how this operates. I'm just going to do a voiceover. So here it is. I would have clicked on the GPT and it's going to take me there. So let me see where it takes me at this point in time. I generally just ask it to give me some information. It gives me an idea of what I want to do. It talks about getting a general template. It tells me what process thinking is in a synopsis, and of course outlines the goals. This is actually happening in real time. It is not me typing. It's just based on what I clicked on, it took me there. And of course, it's giving these options of what students could explore. And then it goes on by asking me at the end, at some point, it's going to ask me at the end, it gives me an idea, deliverables and so forth, draft, AI companion, you know, these are stuff that they will be using at this point in time. And then it gives me the idea, example, and then it asks me at the end of the prompt, what do I want to do in addition to this? So it has, at this point, let us hold a bit, I'm going a bit fast. It says, would you like this to be tailored to a specific grade or competency? And this is where I would type what I want in order to get an outcome. So having done that, the GPT will respond to my task and give me a process thinking assignment which is needed in relation to where we are. Because what process thinking and learning talks about is really getting the individual to go through a process of learning and reflection before arriving at that response. And that is where we are as it relates to education at this point in time. I know I went through, I can share these links with you so you can have an understanding of how to use them, as well as you might be interested in some of what I've presented here. But at this point, this is what I've done over the period of time. But I want to turn it over to Sarah at this point, who will then direct us in, of course, designing our own GPTs to be used in higher education. I'll stop sharing at this point and pass it over to Sarah.
Rohan, thank you very, very much. I so appreciate that you went first to set up the entire process, and it makes me look like a I've got the easy job here, so thank you. I get to do the fun stuff. I have to say that the first thing that I often say is, this is only going to take a minute. This is no big deal. And my good friend Heidi Laporte, who's on here today, says to me often, it took you hundreds of hours to get to the point where it only takes you a minute. So oftentimes we get stuck in that. After we've been doing this for a while, we get stuck in that piece of, oh, this will only take us a minute, when in fact it's not as intuitive as we think, because we're so comfortable with it. Okay, so I'm going to share something that I'm going to gift you guys with. And I'm not as cool as Rohan. I didn't get my GPT to write for me, which is like so totally cool. I just have to tell you. But I did design a GPT to help you design GPTs. Because even though the process appears to be relatively straightforward, it's not always so easy to put together once you start. Yes, that's exactly right. Let's see, one participant share at the time, share. I love that when you're doing a AI presentation and you can't figure out how to do Zoom. It's always exciting. Okay, so here we have it. And again, I'm going to share this with you so that you can be off and on your way to making your own GPTs. All right. Here we go. Are you ready? This should be fun. What? A GPT builder? What do you want to build? Okay, so let's start shaping your idea. Can you tell me a bit about what you want your custom GPT to do? For example, what kind of tasks should it help with? Who's the main audience or user? And I want to tell you that sometimes when I first started teaching technology to my students, I found out that the thing that was most helpful for them was to actually show them what it is that I'm typing. So I apologize if it's boring to some of you, but for others, it really helps for you guys to visualize the process and help to walk you through. So I'm going to do something that's relatively simple for me because I'm the one doing the typing. So, all right, what kind of task should it help with? And who's the main audience? Is there a particular topic? Let's say I want to develop a introduction to social work, and it is for master's level students, and be sure to incorporate values and ethics. Okay, easy enough. Solid and meaningful goal. I love it that I'm so affirmed. It's kind of like Timu going, buy this, buy this. It just convinces you to keep going. All right, you're the purpose and audience, you're targeting master's level social work students to clarify, should the GPT teach core concepts, quiz or test knowledge, or support students? It should tutor students and act as a TA of sorts. They will come and ask questions about specific social work topics, and you go over those, and then test their knowledge, and provide scenarios. Oh my God, thank God I don't get judged for spelling. Excellent. That gives us a strong foundation. Okay, so purpose. Answer the questions on specific social work topics, explain theories, concept, values, ethics, provide knowledge, checks, short quizzes. Is there a particular curriculum or textbook? No, just stick to historical social work figures and values and ethics. And I may add in articles a later date. Perfect. Thanks for clarifying. Historical figures in social work, core social work values and ethics. Okay, here's how I understand your vision, which is really important. This is the next important step. You're creating a virtual TA for master's level social work students focused on historical foundations and the ethical framework of the profession. The GPT should teach about key historical figures, explain and contextualize core social work values and ethics, and reference guiding documents like the NASW Code of Ethics, personality and style. Approachable. And encouraging. Oh, and a few jokes here and there. Okie dokie. Love it. All right. So approachable, encouraging, sprinkle light humor, final custom, purpose and behavior, explain the concept clearly, concisely, engage the student reflection, knowledge and domains, key historical figures, foundation values, personality and style, warm, approachable, encouraging, conversational, structured explanations, boundaries and ethics, avoid giving clinical, legal, or diagnostic advice, flag sensitive or potential triggering topics, output format. Structure your responses with clear sections, background, key contributions, ethical relevance, test yourself scenario. Who was Jane Addams? Background. Jane Addams was, I love it. Would you like me to help you upload this to a custom GPT? Yes. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'll guide you step by step and create your custom GPT using this prompt. To create your GPT, click Create GPT, Create, then Configure. Under what should this GPT do? Paste this. That's it. Let me know if you want help. It takes you right to where you need to go. Create. We're already in the configure button. So I'm going to say intro to social work during demo. A fantastic demonstration. What does this GPT do? Here's the instructions. Boom. Sarah, how did you think up all that? Click Save and Publish. Who do you want to know about? Upload files. Good. Create. Save. It's been a little bit wonky lately. If you don't save it and then view your GPT, I've been having some troubles with that. Okay, who do you want to know about? Jane Addams. Welcome to Social Work, TA Ethics, Historical Helper. Today's feature, the OG of macro social work, Jane Addams. Gives me some background. Here's her key contributions. She wasn't just offering clarity, she was fostering community. The ethical relevance, test yourself. Which of the following? A. Nice try, but the correct answer is B, casework theory. That's not true. Mary Richmond. Okay, so, and I have to tell you, that's one of the things that you have to do is you go through there and go, oh no, that's not right. And then you go back in to edit the GPT if it's not quite right. If you want it to be more, come on, go back to configure. If you'd like for it to be more interactive, you can tell that to please help with discussion prompts, ask questions, et cetera, et cetera. So after this is all built, you've got the shell here. You can go back in, tweak it so that it's perfect for you. So I want to show you something. Here's the great news for those of you who do not have ChatGPT Pro. There is a program called Diffy, D-I-F-Y, that you can use to build GPTs as well. So I'm going to share my screen again for just a moment. This is a progress note GPT that I built some time ago. Now, in this one, you generate the case comes up, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is a really super cool GPT. It walks a student right through, et cetera, et cetera. But what I found is that a lot of students who don't have the pro version, they run into the wall of the free space, right? So their free account, they can only have like 10 prompts, and then they get knocked out. In Diffy, D-I-F-Y, it might be a Defy, I'm not sure. You can also build chatbots. And here's the good news, is that you can use that GPT builder that I just shared with you to actually build the chatbot in this app. So in this one, it's a little bit different. You have to type in the begin section, generate a case. Start the chat. And it takes a little bit longer in this. And it's not nearly as smooth. And you're actually, this is running off of your tokens, but tokens are really inexpensive when you use a slower model. And you don't have to use a fast model for these, especially for ones that you're doing just for your own classes. So as you can see, this doesn't do, here's your client case the same way. And a student can continue with this. Here's your task, write a progress note. The student can continue with these tasks for as long as they want, and they're not going to run into a paywall.